Here is a JVC cassette deck. It's UL listed. It has no line fuse in it for overcurrent protection from the factory. Okay, so here's the fuse block we're going to put in the JVC, and here's the fuse we're going to be putting in it. See how tiny that little filament is inside there? And see the filament in your standard house fuse? And while it's taking time to burn out that house fuse, it can be overheating the transformer, and the transformer can get very hot, and it could create a shock hazard and or a fire hazard while it's taking time to burn out the house fuse. So we'll take the top off here. As you can see, the power cord comes in and goes straight to the wire caps here. See these little caps on here? There's no overcurrent protection of any kind in here. So we'll take these off. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to look at my plug here. The plug is not polarized, so it's not going to make a difference which side I put the fuse block on. So I'll just cut this little cap off here. And I'm going to cut this little tie off here. So here's the red wire here. I'm going to strip a little bit off this red wire. Careful not to break any of the strands off. I'll twist them together. And I'll do the same over here. I'll strip a little bit off the power cord, but I'm going to solder this side first. We're going to use some rosin flux. I haven't opened this for a while. I guess that is no good. So I'll have to use this flux. So I will I'll dip my wire into the flux. I'll clean the tip of my iron. I'm going to use some 40-60 solder here. I'm going to put a little solder on my iron here. I'll come up and I'll just tin this wire a little bit here. I'll just see how it's going to fit in here. It's going to fit in there just perfect. So I will take and I'll get some flux on the terminal here, on the bottom and on the top. put some solder on my iron. Bring it up. Careful not to drop solder into the stereo. I'm going to have to put some more solder on here. It's a pretty good size hole, so I'm going to add some more solder. Yeah, that's taking up a lot of solder in that hole. I'll just turn it over. Bottom looks filled. I'm just going to tip this up a little bit and let some solder run down. So I'm going to take and get some flux up here, because I want to just even it off so it looks really nice and neat. Oh, it bubbled over here on this side, so I'm going to get some more and get to go through to the other side. I want to even it off so it looks even. So I'm going to put some flux down here. And I'm going to put some more flux up here. Okay, so I'm going to heat the other side now and see if I can get some of that solder to go down to the other side. There we go. Let's let that cool a bit. There, now we have a nice even solder on both sides there. But for some reason that wants to be grainy, so, and I don't like that. So again, I'm going to flux it up again. Flux on the bottom, flux on the top. A little more solder on the iron. And I'm just going to heat it up across the terminal, get everything. There it goes. Now it's a nice clean solder joint. And I'll take an alcohol and Q-tip and I'll clean that off. And I'll turn it over and look at the other side. And let that cool. There, now it's a nice solder joint on both sides. Now I'll just push this insulation up so it's butted up to the, see how it's nice and clean full solder here, and the insulation just goes up to the joint. Same on this side. So now we're ready to solder this side. So again, I'm going to strip, and I'm going to be careful not to break the strands off, because if you break strands off, you can cause a short inside the unit. Get some flux on there. Tin the wire. Now this wire is thicker and heavier, so it might solder a little bit better. So I'm going to put some flux on my terminal there. Okay, so I'm going to go in. So I'm going to just get the insulation to come up to it. go. This side soldered really nice. Let that cool a little bit longer. Flip it over. Got a real nice flow through on this side. So now I can take my alcohol and Q-tips and I can clean the soldered joints up here. Get all the flux and junk off of it. And now I can take and mount my block down to the chassis here, putting a screw through the block. Okay, so now I gotta cut my screw off so now I'll get my block all lined up so it's nice and even here. I gotta turn it here and just so I can see it and get it lined up nice and even. I'm just going to make sure I didn't get any solder balls on the wires here before I fold them in. Back out into this little tie, because I did have a few drop. Okay, so this can go back in up here. Okay, so all this can go back up in here now. And this is how it was folded in from the factory. I'm going to look at my fuse, make sure it's the right size. It's It's an AGC 1 amp, so I'll give you a close-up look of what that looks like all done. Now to get some solder balls fell down in here, so I'm going to have to take my Q-tip here and just get them all broken off, make sure they're not stuck anywhere in here. I'm going to tip it upside down and I'm going to get them out, and I'll show you how to get them out. It's a bummer when it happens, because sometimes you have to solder over top of the circuit board and you don't want to have it short solder balls falling in and shorting things out. So I'll show you how to get them out. You just turn it upside down like this. Shake them out, get them out like that. And I'll give you a close-up picture of what that looks like all done inside there. So there it is, all done. You can see what my soldering looks like. And there is the front of the unit.